another episode of the Kam Johal Show. We've got an exciting show for you tonight. But first of all, what's been happening in our country. So COVID is still here, but we're having great success. Last week, we actually had more vaccinations in terms of the second injection than the first. So great success in our own country, but not such good news in Europe. So we've got to be very, very careful. And obviously India still has problems and issues, so I don't know whether you'll be able to visit India anytime soon. But we will keep bringing you news on the great pandemic, and as the country starts opening up, some really good news in terms of, as I said to you last week, schools are back and other venues on the 12th of April. Most shops and outdoor places will open. We'll be able to meet more people than we do at this moment in time. So stay careful. And I'm also happy to news that the Indian community has taken up the vaccine in great numbers, and not so many others. Black Afro-Caribbean community is way behind. The Muslim community is way behind. So, if you are, as I said, go and talk to medically qualified people and allay your fears and be confident that you're taking the vaccine for all the right reasons. But just don't listen to scaremongering within our communities. Don't listen to rumours. Don't listen to conspiracy theories. Make up your own mind, because that's going to be the key to us being able to move around freely once again. We're in the second year of this thing, which none of us thought would be the case. So that's my little bit about the state of where we are in terms of COVID. So my guest tonight is a very dear friend of mine. We're going to share a journey that is very unique and very different, but also, a lot of you will resonate with his story. So Paul Tinker and I have known each other for 2.5-3 years now, and we share more things than you would believe. So Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Cam.
Great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell us where you live first.
So I live in a little town called Brigg, just south of Hull and north of Lincoln, North Lincolnshire area. Moved there probably 10 years ago now, from London actually. But yeah, it's a lovely place.
Okay, so in terms of career, where did it all start?
Where did it all start?
Yes.
Now then, so I left school obviously at 6. I actually left school at 15. I fell off a cliff when I was 15 years old, right before my GCSEs were due, so I didn't actually sit any exams. So all my GCSE grades were estimated. I got to the end of that, and my dad was like, right, now you're going to college, you're going to go to college, and it was, you're going to study this, you're going to do A-levels, and you're going to go do a degree. And I was kind of like, yeah, okay, you do what dad tells you, right?
Yes, of course.
And I went and did that, but into the first year of it, into the first year of my A-levels, I decided that this is not for me. I hated it. So I left and went to study car mechanics as an apprentice, and I wasn't very good at that. So I was chinned that off after about a year and getting 14 points on my driving licence as well.
Wow.
For speeding within 9 months. So I got caught 4 times. Then I left that to join the military. It was pretty much like, I've got all these points on my licence, where do I go now? So I joined the military. The Royal Engineers in the British Army, and I served 14 years there, trained to be a bricklayer, and I've finished my career in 2007 as a section commander. 2008. My transition from the military to civilian life, I went into construction management by accident. So I'd been a bricklayer in the military and served just short of 14 years it was in the end. I was a bricklayer in the military, and then it was, what do I do when I leave? What shall I do? It was like, all I know is the army, and I wasn't a very good car mechanic. So it was like, I had to really sort of make a choice, and I didn't have any sort of direction or anything. So when you leave the military, you do a course called the CTW, which is a career transition workshop.
Yeah.
And I sat in this room, and I was sat next to this guy called Joe, and Joe he'd been interviewed by this guy who was taking this training. This guy was called John, and John's walked down the room and said, what do you want to be when you leave, and what do you want to be when you leave? And Joe said, I'm going to be a construction site manager. And I was like, I like the sound of that.
I'll do that.
So I'll do that. So he got to me and said, what are you going to do, Paul? I said, oh, I'll be a construction site manager. And he was like, oh, yeah, nice one. Coincidentally, Joe and I got interviewed for the same job later on, and I got the job, and he just doesn't speak to me.
But he was happy, yes.
Yeah. So I left that and I applied for a job in Scunthorpe. I was living in London at the time. Applied for a job in Scunthorpe, and I got the job. I met this old guy called Martin, and Martin was like, yeah, when can you start? And I was like, well, is that it? That's my interview? And he was like, yeah. So I started on this job working for a national housing developer, refurbishment contractor. They did all the decent home works for local authority. So bringing up dilapidated council property up to what was known as the decent home standard back then. So it was new kitchen, new bathroom, rewired, new central heating system, plastering, decorating, etc. And I got a bit of a buzz for this, got a bit of a bug for it. It was like, I like this. So I kind of developed my skill set and my career around this whole thing. I loved it. I really found sort of my passion in doing this thing, bringing knackered properties up to life, up to a standard. And I did that for sort of, 9 years. Not for that same business, I moved on to another business. And so I did, 8-9 years altogether in the refurbishment space, in the corporate refurbishment space. During this time, I'd done about just over 3,000 refurbishments, up to 300 million in revenue. Left that to set up my own company, my own construction company. It was one of those decisions where you go, right, I'm going to go and do this myself instead of making all this money for these big guys, yeah? So I went out to set up my own construction company. Started that in 2008. The first job that I did was hanging a TV on a lady's wall, on a bedroom wall, 40 quid. And I was buzzing to get 40 quid off a job. It was like, yes. So I'd done that, and then we just grew the business from there. From owning my construction company and working for the clients that I chose to work with, I noticed a real gap in the market for education on people working with builders. And it was born out of frustration more than anything. And it was like, how can I show these people how they need to work with builders? And I've got a real passion for this now. I've been doing it for 10 years, and I wanted to really sort of pass the torch, as it were. So I formed the training academy as a result of that frustration more than anything. And then I find myself where we are today as a result of that.
So what was the gap that you noticed? So you're working for individuals now, in refurbishment projects.
Yeah.
So what was the problem that you saw?
So the problem was we had, we'll call them property investors, property strategists, however you want to label them, people that are trying to generate income from property. A very popular strategy in the space was to buy a rundown property, do it up, sell it for a profit, or do it up, put tenants in. You know the script. But this was being done inefficiently, and it was being done non-compliantly and non-profitably, from what I could see. So people were coming to me with an expectation of what a cost would be for this particular chunk of work, with no sort of real science or assessment behind what works needed to be doing. So therefore, the costs were then misaligned with the lack of assessment that had been made. So the education piece for me was, we need to show these people what's required to deliver a profitable refurbishment. There has to be a piece of work that I can train people here on how to make money from this thing and do this thing effectively, efficiently and compliantly. And without that, everything's sort of being left to chance, a bit of hope, guesswork. And I wanted to really hone that skill and hone that, really sort of refine a process.
Yeah, did you find, despite all the nonsense that we see on these property buying and selling programs on TV, that a lot of your clients were actually not making any money?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
So, because obviously the Asian community is massive into property, huge. Most of my friends are in property. And so, it's a great learning curve for you guys in terms of how projects are costed up properly, right from the get-go. But it's treated like a business, right?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, because we've come across quite a few now between us that, where's the money going to come from?
Yeah.
So, but of course, your favourite subject is square metre pricing, isn't it?
I can't believe you got that in.
I had to.
I thought we had a deal.
So tell me, because, as a layperson, I've got a bit of experience in property, so I know not to ask such a basic and a question that really is poor judgment. But from people starting out there, so those viewers that are watching, that it's their first project, and they're trying to get a handle on what it's going to cost. Because at the end of the day, when you're assessing whether you buy that property, it's kind of ballpark figures, isn't it?
Yeah.
right? So you buy the property and you guesstimate that the refurbishment is going to cost this. And it's so typical to ask a square meter price, right? So, but you, ever since I've known you, have absolutely hated that.
Yeah.
Tell me why, Paul, that, it's a great mistake,
So,
to be basing your cost structure on that and asking that question of anybody, but that's actually a professional.
Yeah, so to base your build cost, we'll call it, on a square metre price, is a total and absolute guess, because the size of the property, the footprint of the property, bears absolutely no correlation there is no correlation between the size, the footprint of the property, the area of land on which it sits, as to what needs to be done to that property. I genuinely do not see where this was even invented, never mind how it's still being used. I guess it's some herd mentality that people have latched onto and kind of gone, he's doing that, so I'm going to do it. That's why they're all skint, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so let's say that this property is 100 square metres in size. Now, how does that tell you how much plastering is needed? How does that tell you whether it needs a rewire? How does that tell you how many doors need to be changed? So it just doesn't. The two things are completely separate entities.
Yes.
The square meters in area of the property is only good for working out how much carpet you need. That's it.
Brilliant. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So for the as you said, the layperson, there's so much to it. There's so much to it to pricing up work. You can't just have a cheat sheet. You can't just have a formulaic approach. Everything is bespoke in a refurb. Absolutely everything, right down to the strategy. Dependent upon what your strategy is, dependent upon what you intend to do with that property, is going to wholly govern what you spend on it.
Yeah.
So for a buy-to-let, Indian investors that we work for, if we're working for an Indian investor that is operating the buy-to-let strategy, generally speaking, they're happy to leave the wallpaper on and just paint it. Ditto Arctic ceilings, just paint it, mate. Because they're doing it on a budget, I get that.
Yes.
But if we're flipping it to sell, we're not going to leave wood chip wallpaper on an Arctic ceiling on. If we're going to flip it to sell, we're going to overskim it. Or we're going to strip the wallpaper and then maybe replaster and then decorate. So the two strategies there are wholly different in terms of price and workload.
Okay. So goes back to where I normally come in when clients come to me is, begin with the end in mind, right?
Yeah, of course.
So know what you're going to do with the property.
Absolutely. It's the number one decision. That's the first decision we need to make.
And so the other thing, of course, is that I suppose from a professional point of view, if you're putting out prices per metre, that's a lazy way of doing it, isn't it? It's
absolutely.
It's the same as people walking into a party and noticing that somebody's a doctor, right? Oh, my knee hurts. Yeah. Oh, this is wrong with it.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really care, does he? You're not going to be the client.
Yeah.
And so you've gotten over that, and you talk much more about the quality of the fit and finish. Because I remember we have a mutual client, or two of them, and we were talking about their refurbishment project, and it was going to go over budget. And I said, well, have you spoken to Paul about the quality of the fit and finish? So they said, it's 5-star. I said, right, okay, then don't go to Paul and say, can you do it for this much? Talk to Paul about, how about a 4-star finish? That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
As long as what 5-star and 4-star is, we got to know what that is, the definition of that is.
Yeah.
Because your 5-star is going to be wholly different to what mine is.
Of course, but it gives you an idea, doesn't it, from a client's point of view?
Yeah.
That what they're looking for is not absolutely the best, and you can actually respect somebody, can't you? Saying, listen, I haven't got the budget to do this to the Ritz quality.
Yeah.
But we'll do it to a medium quality that it will do.
Yeah, that's a great word you use there, Cam. Budget.
Yeah.
It seems to be the secret number. People want to keep the budget a secret. Now, how can I, as the builder, stick to your budget if I don't know what your budget is?
Yeah.
It's critical to share that piece of information. I hear it so often where people say, oh, my builder went over budget, or my builder went over time. But if the builder doesn't know what the budget is in the first place, then how can he possibly be held responsible for going over that budget? Yeah. And likewise time. We look at time as well. Builder went over time. So then we're going to talk about, well, did you communicate a program of works? Did you detail the critical dates? Did you communicate that what you should be started then and finished then, and what the check-in points were along the way? And if that information is not shared, there is no time to go over, because it doesn't exist. There was no period that was ever communicated.
That's a mentality issue, isn't it?
100%, yeah.
Right? Because what I think is that all of those people are part of your team. So the builder, the estate agent, the mortgage broker, all of those people are part of that team that can help you bring that project home. But as you said, if you hold that information close because you think it's a them and us attitude, it's not going to work, is it?
Oh, it's not, no. So many times I hear that as well.
Yeah.
Client versus builder.
Yes.
Instead of client with builder. You know, you've got to go at this thing together. It's a joined-up team approach. I know we hate the phrase power team, but it truly is.
It works,
truly
doesn't it? Because the thing is this.
You just need a different word for it, right?
Yeah. Just call it us.
Yeah, okay.
Right? It's we,
Yeah.
right? Rather than them and us. I think the thing is that, you know, many people, and I get it, you know, because I know my community and how we think, that what happens is we don't actually want you to make any money, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to make all the money.
Yeah, I totally get that, yeah.
Right? But the thing is, that short-term strategy,
Yeah.
because I could have you over on your costings if you're not professional. But then the problem is you're never going to work for me again, right?
That's right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Economies don't work if everybody doesn't make any money. So all of a sudden you start talking about win-wins and things change, don't they?
Yeah.
Right?
Completely.
If somebody comes to you and said, listen, Paul, I've budgeted this much for this project. Because the thing is, if I'm doing a refurb, right? So when I buy the property, I know the cost of the purchase. I know what the conveyancing is going to cost. I know what the financing is going to cost. The only variable really is the refurb cost, isn't it?
Yeah, and also the biggest one.
Yeah? So everything else is pretty much fixed.
Yeah.
And I also, if I go to my estate agent that I'm buying off and say, listen, I'm thinking of doing this, and what do you think it'd be worth? And within about 5-10%, he or she will be able to tell us what that's going to go out at the market at.
Yeah, completely.
Right? So, and even those people should be part of your team. You know, have them on board, right? So then, to me, the only bit where you're going to make and lose money is the refurb.
Yeah.
So if you get the wrong builder, if you don't share the information, and if you don't, both of you don't know what the end product's going to look like, that's where all the errors come, isn't it?
Oh, completely. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you educate your clients? Where do you start? So, you know, if somebody does ring you up and say, listen, Paul, I haven't got a clue what this is going to cost. And when should, for our viewers, like I said, lots of property investors and lots of wannabe property investors, where should they start? So you look at the house, you're viewing that with the estate agent. At what stage would you recommend that they bring you in?
So in an ideal world, in the builder's shoes, in the builder's capacity, what I'd like to see is your intent. So what you intend to do with that property. I'd like to see a specification, and what I mean by that is you're going to tell me what it is that you want to do to that property, because what you want to do, which may be on a budget, and what I deem necessary to do could be completely different. You know, I'm looking at it through a builder's eyes, you're looking at it through a property investor's eyes.
Yes.
So your expectations are misaligned right from the off. So that's got to be done at a joined up approach. Now, what I'd want from you in an ideal space would be to come to me with a specification, with an exit strategy. This is what I want to do with it. This is what I want to do in there. Now we can start sitting around the table and start shooting some numbers about and fitting the elemental pieces of work within your budget. Now, I think the failing comes from people have attended some sort of property training or done some education, and then come away with this whole fake it till you make it approach.
Come on, Paul. They did spend 3 days learning that. I mean, God, why can't you learn in 3 days?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. And when this inquiry comes across, it's the whole plain. You said it earlier, newbie.
Yes.
So, but they play that they've been doing it for years, and they come across with this whole, you know, I'm Johnny, I'm trying not to swear now, I'm Johnny, big developer, and I know exactly what I'm doing, I don't need your help, give me this, give me that, with the real sort of, builders can spot it a mile off, they can spot it an absolute mile away. So it's just about being open and honest, you know, come and say, look, this is my first property investment, what do you need from me? What do you need from me to be able to bring some profit in from this project? You know, that'd be a great question to ask a builder.
Yeah.
What do you need from me?
Because the thing is that it brings, all of a sudden, it's an open question.
Yes.
It brings all of your experience. And then all of a sudden, you now, I mean, look, if you were, you know, a charlatan, you'd take advantage of that situation.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think as human beings, we can pick that up.
Yes.
Right? So you know, you will know whether that person's trying to have you over or not. You'll feel uneasy. Right? Somebody asks me, how much due diligence should I do on people? I said, look, you can't do due diligence. Yeah, go with this.
Yeah, always.
What do you feel in your gut?
Yeah, always.
And if you feel uneasy, don't use them.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
And builders get that from clients as well.
Of course.
Let's also be mindful of that.
Yeah. So, you know, and that's the other thing, isn't it? That, you know, very often we as clients sometimes assume that every builder, every person on earth wants to do business with you.
Yeah.
Right?
100%. Yeah.
But you and I both know you don't want every client, do you? I definitely don't, and I know you don't.
No.
So the thing is that, as you said, so when you're viewing your first property, tell the estate agent it's your first one, that you're looking to do this with it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So is this suitable, or is there any other properties that you have? Because they have properties on their books, right?
Yeah.
So use their experience. Bring you in if you can, you know, even before you bought the property. Paul, I'm thinking of doing this. Is it economically viable?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And then, you know, and again, if you suddenly start looking at a long-term relationship instead of one-off deals, then you don't mind investing that time, even if you ended up going to see 2 or 3 properties with that client.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because you're building something, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So that's where it works. So the other thing I wanted to pick up with you is that, like you said, you talked about Indian clients, right? So
we put a tax on you now.
right? So what do you think? Because a lot of my community, they want to watch you work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so what advice have you got for them? And I understand why.
Yeah.
Right? But I also understand why they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's that same old story. You know, when I've got somebody in the office and I'm trying to put something into my computer or my keyboard, suddenly the keys get lost when somebody's there, right?
Yeah, totally.
Is it like that for you when somebody's kind of standing over? You think, oh, good God.
So the question is, what's my advice to clients?
Should they or shouldn't they?
Yeah.
And you know, what do you? How does it make you feel from your end when you feel that you're being watched?
I can sum it up in 2 words, and I'll look at the camera for it.
Go on.
Get out. We don't want the client in there. We don't. Absolutely not. I understand the need, not the need, the want. I get it. You know, you're keeping an eye on people. You want to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But you're just in the way. You're slowing things down. Your presence is slowing things down. Your presence can put guys on edge. We're working for a particular client right now. We spoke about him outside. And he sits in the job all day. Right. Sits there, he's set up a table in the corner, and he's sat in the corner just watching the guys. He's not in the way or anything, but his presence puts guys like, why is he here? Why is he here? Why is he watching us? You know, and they don't want that. It's not a conducive working relationship.
Yeah.
If the builder's there to execute a task, you're a property investor, right? You're not a site foreman or a charger. And do you truly know what it is that you are looking at? Do you truly know the points that you're making are the valid points?
Yeah.
You know, or you're just being nosy. You've got to know why we want to be there. I think that's the piece of work to do there.
Yeah. I think the education for there is, number one is like all of you builders, you know, if my Indian cousins are sitting there watching you, it's not because they don't trust you. That's how things are done in India.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just a custom thing as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, because I know from that end, you feel mistrusted and you think, like you said, what the hell is he doing here?
Yeah, maybe there's a piece of work to do around, you know, we have an Indian client, and he's one of those. He likes to come and sit and watch. And I go, listen, Taz, can you just, you know, come on a Friday afternoon or something like that? Or maybe on Monday morning. Yeah, okay. And off he goes, and he's happy. You know, you invited him in. He's still getting that part. He's still getting that piece. He's still being involved. But you know, he's just not there all day, every day, sat in the corner, watching like that.
Like you said, the other thing, of course, is, you know, I tend to think that, you know, you're infinitely a better builder than I am, you know, and I know finance and property. So I want to be going out to look for another property, not watching you work.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Right? So what you want to do is play to your strengths.
Yeah, of course.
And so, that's another piece of advice for investors is, instead of watching Paul and his colleagues work, go out and look for the next property. Go out and look for selling that property. Go and talk to agents about, look, this property is going to be ready in 4 weeks' time, 6 weeks' time, 8 weeks' time. Let's get it on the market.
Yeah. And what else have you got for me next?
Yeah, and in terms of, we were talking again, the two lads that are our mutual clients, when that property is 6, 8, 10 weeks away, as soon as the work starts, put it up for sale.
Yeah, they're actually putting it up for sale before we even start work. They're going to get some CGI done on it and market it before we start. Yeah. I think it's a great idea. Worthy investment.
Well, the thing is this, that as soon as you've got planning permission, it's ready to go, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right,
because nobody can grab that off you. You know what the finished product's going to be. The other thing is, of course, is that you can get your potential buyers involved. So, and this was, we talked about that on the course when they came, and since then, that imagine then somebody coming in to buy it as a family home, and all of a sudden they want a pink bathroom instead of a white one.
Yeah.
It's great, isn't it? It's involvement.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing is you have underwritten your investment. You know exactly what's going to happen, and your clients are much happier and they're involved. And then the other thing is, of course, that if you're one of my Indian cousins and wants to sit and watch you guys, that's great. You don't have to do that. Now your client can watch them, right?
Yeah.
No. Not really. You don't want anybody watching.
No.
Look, you're in property. You're an investor yourself, right? How do you see things going? Because we're coming out of this pandemic, hopefully, and things should return to some kind of normality. I don't quite understand why estate agents and letting agents have been open, because they certainly weren't essential, right?
No.
And I don't know why we had a stamp duty holiday.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's gone on. I have my own views about the fact that rising property markets are not always good, right? Because I believe that we are forever indebted to a greater degree on that same property. So the only people that are really benefiting are the guys that are giving us the finance, right?
Yeah.
Because we have forever greater debt to service. Somebody's got to pay it, whether it's me or you or our children.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So, but that's another program and maybe a bit too deep for this time. So, but we've got the stamp duty holidays going on till I believe the end of June now. Then we've got this government scheme for first-time buyers coming through, which will further support the market. So if we do get some sort of recession or correction, because somebody's got to pay for all the money that's being spent right now and has been over the last year, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see, the sector that we're in terms of property, where do you see that over the next few years?
I don't really know. I don't think anybody does. And I think it'd be almost foolhardy to try and foresee that. You can sort of, I think we can only react to what's in front of us right now.
Sure.
Like anything, I think it's Warren Buffett that said, be brave when people are being fearful and be fearful when people are being brave.
That's
or something like that.
That's right.
Now, for me, I'm just going to deal with the cards I have.
Sure.
The cards are on the table and that's the hand I'm playing with.
Yeah.
I'm not going to think about the next hand or the next hand after that or after that. I'll deal with the market that's in front of me right now.
Yeah.
And right now, I know what my strategy is right now. I'm executing it well, and things are on the up, and we haven't just survived. We haven't just survived the pandemic. We've thrived through it. So it's been great. It's been great for us, for property, for the construction business, for my training business, for everything. It's been really, really positive, and that's just because I've dealt with what's in front of me.
Yes.
I can't live in fear of what if. We actually took on a new premises during the pandemic, which was a great opportunity because the rent was reduced.
Look, I've often talked about the great companies that were started during the last recession, Uber, Pinterest, and many others. So, the thing is that we moved offices during this last 12 months to a property that was twice the size of the one that we had previously.
Yeah.
But the rent we negotiated was about 50% below what it was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
So the thing is that services are cheaper, aren't they?
Yeah, we did the exact same thing, Cam.
There you go.
We did double size, half the price.
Yeah. So fantastic. We'd never get that. Even today we wouldn't get it.
No.
Right? And so there's lots of things that can happen during any recessionary period, or more the pandemic's been about people not knowing what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So, I think it was Darwin that said, if you can keep your head, whilst others are losing theirs, you'll do very well.
Yeah.
And I think it's been that. And
full of quotes today, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah. In the seed of adversity lies, what is it? In every adversity lies the seed of a greater benefit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know who said that though.
Absolutely. We said it, right?
Yeah, we said it,
yeah.
I think it was Seneca.
Yeah. Paul Tinker said it.
Yeah.
So the thing is that, you can benefit services and labour's cheaper and there's more available labour during times of difficulty, and premises, as you said, are cheaper. So there's a lot going for setting up during a recession.
Yeah, I mean, in the construction industry, I think that's kind of spun things on its head because of the industry staying open and because of the property market staying open. It's created a huge supply and demand issue for builders, and that has allowed them to increase prices, which again has been one of the benefits to the construction industry. I think prices for labour have gone up, materials have certainly gone up. So what was pre-pandemic, what would have been, let's call it a 20k refurb, I think now you're looking at more 24, 25 for the same piece of work.
Yeah.
But end values are reflecting that.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Across the board. I saw a property in Ambleside. I saw it on Facebook this morning. It went into the guide in auction at, I think it was 239, and it sold for 480,000.
Wow.
I mean, that 200 grand over market value it went for. Absolutely mental.
Yes. Yeah. But the thing is, if you're sitting on cash today, one of my business partners got a phone call from his bank asking him to move some money into a deposit account, and he said, "Okay, that's great. What's the interest rate?" And it was 0.002 or something.
Yeah.
So he said, "I think I'm missing out on about £40 a year of interest."
Yeah.
And they went, "Yeah, no problem. I'm okay with that." Right? There aren't any returns to be had, is there? In the banks, keeping your money under the mattress and all the rest of it. So property, for me, and we're both in property, it is the gold standard of investing, because I like yourself, I invest in other assets. But stocks and shares, you can go to zero.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can go to zero. And if you're doing leveraged investing, you can go to less than zero, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because that to me is just like a bookie for posh people.
Yeah.
Right? That's all it
like
is.
That, yeah.
Right? That's all they are. They're bookies for posh people.
Yeah.
Right? So, there's things that like gold that hold value. They're a store of wealth, but there's no return and you can't leverage. So property for me is that you can leverage your investment. And then obviously you get the appreciation and then you get the return as well.
Yeah.
Right? And the other thing is it can't go to zero. And even if it does, you still got that piece of dirt that you own and the rent will still keep coming, right? Yeah. So it's a great way to be investing your money. So I suppose it's a long-winded way of saying that there isn't really a lot of choice other than property to be investing in for those that are risk averse, and hence prices will keep going up and up and up whilst returns in other asset classes are next to nothing, right?
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. And then of course I think we've got a lot of mobility for the first time in property. I think the last year of our estate agency business in Leicester, we were selling 20-25% of our stock was sold to outside investors coming from London. And of course, those London investors have ventured much further up north now, haven't they? And of course, values seem to be better. Yeah,
I mean, for me, I don't think it really matters where you invest. I believe that the percentage gain is the same no matter where you are.
Okay.
I think the attraction for London investors up north is the entry point.
Yes.
You can still pick up £10,000-15,000 houses around by me.
Yes.
Crazy. Buying with your pocket change. So you're not going to get that in London.
No.
But the percentage return on a 10 to 15k house will be the same on maybe not the same, but there's still the percentage return to be had in capital appreciation, in return on investment through rental, whatever it is that you're going to do. Those gains are everywhere.
Okay. That brings us nicely on to as a novice investor. So people that are starting out, and and I come across a lot of younger people that want to get into property. And my advice is always about looking at the yield, right? and not ridiculous, stupid yields that you're seeing on, these idiots put out on Facebook, because like none of it's real, by the way.
Yeah.
Right?
The 5K refurb club.
Yeah. And I always think, anywhere around 6, 7, 8% is a pretty good yield, because you still got the appreciation, right?
Yep.
And property is a long-term game.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that? What do you look for when you're investing yourself?
For me, I like to have all my money back out. That's pretty much my driver.
Okay.
So I want to build a rental portfolio, but to get my money back out of the deal. So one was going through conveyance right now. We've paid 50,000 for it. It's a 3-bed mid-terrace, which is unusual for my area. They're normally 2, but this particular one's got 3. We'll spend about 18,000 on it, and I know it'll revalue it, but around 95.
Okay.
So when I refinance that post-works, I've got the 6-month period to wait.
Yeah.
I'll revalue that. All my money will come back out. I'll have my deposit back to then just go again. I think though.
Can I just explain that, Paul? Because for people that are not familiar, so we talk about that as buy, refurb, and refinance strategy, right? Yeah. So the idea is that you pick up a property that needs some work done to it. And again, it would be very important to get somebody like Paul in on knowing what the refurb cost is going to be if you don't know it yourself. And if you're new, you won't know it. So he picked up a house for £50,000, spent 17,000.
Yeah, we haven't done it yet. That's the number.
So this is the paperwork, right? Yeah. So that comes in at £67,000. So let's say 70k.
70 with the fees,
for the fees and bits and bobs. So that's going to value up at 95. Did you say? So for ease of operation, let's say it's going to value up at 100, and you're going to borrow 75%.
Yep.
Right. So £25,000 is what you would have put in that, but you've increased the value of that.
Yes.
So what was your initial investment into that? The 50k.
So we actually paid cash for the whole thing.
Okay.
So we'll be putting 67 in.
Yeah, and you will get out 70-ish.
We'll pull out 75. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what Paul's strategy is, and that can work. It's not an easy one to pull off.
No, it's not, because you've got to be able to buy the refurb at the right price. Yeah,
and then you've got to get it done, and etc., etc., etc. And where most people lose their shirts is the refurb cost.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, they greatly underestimate what it's going to cost to refurb the house, or they go to one of these optimistic builders that say, "No, don't worry about that. We'll get that done for 10 grand." Because
the biggest mistake I see is people that over-deliver. Not only do they underestimate, they also over-deliver.
Yeah, what do you mean by that, Paul?
So I mean, let's say that this is going to be a typical rental property. Now, I know that the last kitchen we did in one of my rentals, the physical kitchen cost me just over 900 quid, 918 quid from our supply chain. But I know people that would have bought that and put a 4K kitchen in.
Yes.
Now, there's no need to do that. There is absolutely no need to do that. All you're doing there is throwing money away. So every single decision that we make on a refurb, and I try and coach my clients through this, every decision we make, I ask myself 2 questions. Will this increase the end value? Will this increase the rental income? If I'm saying no to either of those, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
It's really simple.
But I think the thing is that, and I used to see this, and it used to make me laugh on these TV programs. And I think the problem is that when you're doing especially your first few properties, people get attached and they get emotional.
Yeah.
Right? And they think they're building a house for themselves.
Yeah, it's because I sat in the corner watching.
Yeah. Right? So they forget that it's a business.
Yeah.
That it's got to offer a return.
Yeah.
I love doing property. Well, you don't love doing property for nothing, do you?
That's
right?
It, yeah.
You might do that with your own property. So I think that the issue is, getting it in their heads that it's a business. And as you said, and the other thing, of course, is that goes back to where we started. You get a good builder on board. That advice could save you much more than whatever the premium is for employing an experienced good builder than to have somebody that's new that says, okay, fine, I'll put that 4K kitchen in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's not their project, is it?
That's right. Yeah. Change as well. Change is another huge cost.
Yes.
On a particular project that we're working on at the minute in North Yorkshire, we fitted the kitchen for him. The client specified the kitchen. We've been and bought it. We fitted it. He's done a site visit, and he doesn't like the worktop. And it was like, and what? You're selling it. Why do you care about? It looks good. It's new. Leave it. No, I don't like the worktop. I'm going to change it. And it was solid white, and he's now having it changed for a white with like a marble fleck through it.
Of course.
You know, and he's added, I think that the cost of the replacement is coming at around 420 quid, something like that. I mean, that's only 420 quid. But the compound effect here, you start doing that on every property, or in every elemental piece of work. Before you know it, you've spent £5,000 too much on every project that you've done throughout the year. Yeah. If you do 6, that's 30 grand you've spent that you didn't need to spend.
But again, that it comes down to not understanding the basics of business, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. That you don't know why you're in there.
Emotionally attached.
Yeah, emotionally attached. Totally. And you don't know the end game of where you want that to end up, right? So all of those things. I mean, I do quite a lot of work around business and the emotions around business, because the property part for me is quite an easy thing. You know, I find that quite easy to teach. Yeah. But the emotional part, because you've got to get rid of a lot of stuff that people have when they come with, you know, of all the reasons why they want to be in property. Because to me, I'm not really interested in piles and piles of bricks that then constitute a building. You know, I just want the dough. Right? You know, what are you in it for? You know, we're not looking for a cure for a major disease. We can't say it's really the most satisfying thing in the world unless you're building your own house for yourself and you don't think about the profit, right? So it's a business at the end of it. So you shouldn't forget that, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you asked a question earlier about newbies earlier. You brought it to the front of my mind now, saying that before you make the decision to get in a property, you've got to be passionate and enthusiastic about it. If you require motivation, if you require motivating to do property, you shouldn't be in it.
No.
Go do something else.
Yes.
Go do something else that you're intrinsically passionate about, intrinsically enthusiastic about, that makes you do this every day. It makes me get up in the morning, put fire in my belly and go and do the work. Yeah. You know, I want that daily.
But tell me something, Paul. You know, somebody might say, well, that's easy for you to say. You know, you're successful and, you know, there's money in the bank. But somebody that's just starting out, because I get that, you know, oh, it's all right for you. Right? Yeah. But the thing is that the fact is that if you're doing something that's passionate, the money will come, right?
Absolutely. The money becomes a byproduct, almost a waste product of the work.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the same with all results.
Absolutely. And everybody from Tony Robbins downwards talks about it. I think he put money in 1 to 10, I think he put money about 7th. And he says that should actually be lower. He would put it even lower now. Here's a guy that's, I don't know, worth $500 million or whatever it is. And that's what he talks about it. The thing is, it's very important, isn't it? And don't say it's all right for you. Just think, why is this guy saying this? Yeah. Right? Yeah. So on Tuesday, I got home at 5:30 from the film shoot. And I was with my business partner, Pete Bell, and he also got home at 5:30. And when we left, the crew and everybody was still there. If you're not passionate, you're not doing that, are you?
You're not. No.
All the tea in China will not keep you there.
No.
To do that, right?
Yeah.
So nobody's getting home at 5:30 in the morning from their job, and we were obviously in the office from 8:30, 9 o'clock the previous morning. And believe it or not, Pete had a business meeting with our development team in Vietnam for 6 in the morning. So he literally showered and went to the office and took that meeting. Yeah. So if you don't love it, no amount of money is going to keep you doing that, right?
No, of course it's not.
And that's the important thing, isn't it? Yeah. The other thing is, it's something that you're going to do for a long time, because you can't quit business, can you? If you don't like a job, 3 months later you're gone, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you've got your life savings sunk into a business, that's not going nowhere, is it?
No, that's it.
Right?
That's
so you know, hopefully we're learning stuff, and you know, the experience of somebody like Paul. We don't often have the ability to talk to people that does what you do, Paul, because you know, builders pretty much they keep themselves to themselves. They don't really talk about their businesses very often, and they're, you know, no disrespect to any construction builders, etc. They don't see the other side of it in terms of educating people. So, you know, just wanted to have a conversation with you that obviously you then thought that I'm a refurb expert, I'm a builder, but I want to start teaching people. So now you teach other people to get projects costed properly, etc. You take them on site, so it's very practical in terms of what you do. Do you want to just take our viewers through the process of what you actually teach, Paul?
Yeah, so we do a training that's, almost an introductory training. That's called Boots on the Ground, and that's a site manager's perspective of how a project should be run. And that's the day-to-day management, the day-to-day operations of a construction site in terms of compliance and profitability. Then we'd go from the site manager's perspective, which is pretty low level in terms of rank structure of the industry. Then we go into the project manager's role, which is a 5-day training. And that 5-day training would take a property investor through the entire process of a refurbishment and construction project, starting with the viewing, what data that we need from that viewing, how we're going to capture that data and use that data to create a design. Then we're going to use that design to create a specification and a program of works. Then we're going to go execute the work, and then we're going to do all our post-works requirements following the project. Now, they're the 2 training courses that we offer. And they're delivered in classroom and over Zoom also, whilst this pandemic's on. Yes. And once this pandemic's gone, I'm going to burn Zoom. I'm going to find out who owned it, and I'm going to leave that there.
I think we're all zoomed out.
Yeah, we are zoomed out. Yeah. I think you even offered this on Zoom, and it was like, nah. No.
I did ask, yes.
Yeah. So they're the levels of service that we go through. But I'm also starting to get a lot of tradesmen come on board. Mm-hmm. Tradesmen coming to us, might be a plasterer, electrician, plumber that comes and says, do you know what, Paul, I want to take my business up a notch. I don't want to just be plastering. I don't want to just do the plumbing. I don't want to just do the wiring. I want to do what you do. I want to come off the tools. I want to deliver the whole piece. I want to operate what you're doing. I want to manage the whole process, the whole project. How can you help me with that? And it's the same process.
Okay. So as for property investors, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not teaching them how to do that work yourself.
No.
But you're teaching them how they get the trades in,
the
how they supervise them, manage their
right,
own projects.
Yeah.
So that would be very valuable to somebody that wants to be a serial investor, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And it's a very practical course because you take them out on site and stuff like that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not valuable, it's essential.
Okay.
Absolutely essential. That's where your money's lost or made. If you get that wrong, if you get the refurb wrong, you spend too much, spend money in the wrong places, deliver it wrong, that's it, your project is finished. Your money's not made on the buy or the sell. Your money's made in the refurb, as you said earlier. That is the place that it's made or lost.
Thank you for all that.
Bombshell, that wasn't it? You don't do that. So when you're doing my course,
I've been doing it for 3 years since I met you.
Yeah.
Listen, what I really wanted to discuss also, as I said to you, it feels like it's been about 5 minutes since we started, is alcohol. Mm-hmm. You and I both have shared a journey, even without meeting each other. We gave up alcohol within a couple of months of each other. We were talking earlier before the show. Tell me what effect that's had since you gave up alcohol on your business life and on your family life for viewers, because in my own community it's a massive issue. I think it's a bigger issue than we want to admit.
Yeah, I mean, likewise, I won't call it my community, I'll just call it my sort of my lifestyle almost. So in the construction industry, drinking is a big thing. In the military, drinking was a huge thing.
Yes.
And so I kind of never ever recognised it as anything wrong, as an issue or anything like that. It was more, it's just who I am. I'm Paul, I drink. It was just like, I've got brown hair, I drink. It's just one of them things. It was just me. I guess it was my identity. I was a drinker. You kind of excuse the behaviour almost. You kind of try and justify the fact that you drink heavily. Now, having the awareness and the acceptance of, do you know what, I've got a problem here. I need to knock this on the head. And going through that journey was hard. It was, as you know yourself, it was a hard thing to do. But the impact, the result of it was phenomenal. Not only did it save me around 11 grand a year, in monetary terms, that's what we were spending between the wife and I. Just my focus, my drive, my health, my fitness, my everything. In fact, I often get this phrase wrong, but I'll try it. My French, it's a bit of French. My raison d'etre used to be booze. Yes. I lived for it. I'd come off the trowel at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, straight to the pub. Yeah. That was my life, and I loved it. I thought I loved it. Yes. I used to fly to work when I was working in the corporate space. I used to get on a plane from Aberdeen, Wick, down south, and flying to Humberside. And if I was flying on Eastern Airways, the wine was free. It was great. Coming back from work and a bottle of wine on the way back, and then trapping home from there. That was just what I was, and I used to live for it. I used to look, the first thing I did when I got up in the morning was, what time am I starting drinking today? I used to plan my day around that.
So now it's a different Paul, right?
Oh, absolutely.
2 and a bit years later, it's 3 years for me in July, I think 3 years for you in September.
September, yeah, that's right.
I would say that it's fair to say that neither of us would be sitting here today if we still had our old life, right?
No, you're probably right, yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
That's all we have time for today. Yeah. I'm being waved at constantly through that screen, so screaming at me.
No way, is that it?
That's it, Paul.
Wow.
And look, we'll have to come and pick this up another day.
Yeah.
In terms of the alcohol and the journey. I'll definitely do that for you guys in the future. So next week's show got an amazing guest, a client of mine, Malvin De Gea, who'll be sharing his property journey and how he's doing. He's a local boy. But today, that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again at the same